All right. Now, if you've read the book, this is going to be of interest to you. Let me talk about some of the changes from the book to the movie for part 2. A couple of things. I don't think that Dune could ever have been done, any faithful adaptation of the book could ever be done unless it was 12, maybe even 24 hours. It should have been a mini series on a Max or something like that. You know, you've got maybe the first season ends with the fall of House Atreides. The second season picks up with the, Paul Atreides and the Fremen. That's how I would have done Dune. The only way to really tell the story is in some sort of mini-series format with an actual budget where you could have gotten the type of effects that Denis Villeneuve got in Dune Part 2. But let's talk spoilers. The first major change in the book has to do with Paul's sister, Alia. Paul's sister, Alia, who is born fully formed because her mother takes the water of life. Lady Jessica takes the water of life when pregnant, and then her child in fetus form ends up becoming fully aware and has all the memories and lives of all the previous Reverend Mothers. This was in David Lynch's book, whatever. Then you see, the war takes place over the course of maybe 3 years or so, little north of 3 years. Well, the major change that they made in Dune Part 2 is Alia is never born. Alia remains in the womb of Lady Jessica and is never born. We never actually see a young toddler with the mind of an adult walking around, which was always kind of a weird thing to begin with, called an abomination by the Bene Gesserit. What happens is Paul Atreides communicates with the fetus that's in the womb. They talk to each other telepathically. And what Alia does is kind of lays some groundwork for Paul of seeing into the future, some things he may want to watch out for. So he actually begins this relationship with his sister Alia in the womb, and then you see manifested in sort of a dream-like future, in a future dream, Anya Taylor-Joy as Alia, which Anya Taylor-Joy, my assumption is she's going to be playing Alia in Part 3 of Dune Part 3, which is effectively going to be...
that wasn't her. She's in Dune Part 2.
No, wait, you didn't hear what I said.
Okay, then I must have missed it then.
He's seeing Anya Taylor-Joy as Alia in the future. And Alia and Anya Taylor-Joy will play Alia in Dune, the third Dune. So yeah, she's in it.
Again, that's why it helps to have read the book. Because I didn't realize that was a dream.
So now, how does that change things? I think it's actually an interesting change. It shortens the timeline. Right. So it means that the events of Dune Part 2 take place over the course of little over 6 months, because Alia is never actually born in the movie. Never born. So the events take place over about 6 months. It seems a little short. What I really loved about the book was it takes place over years. It's years for Paul to get good at this. It's years for them to get the attention of the Emperor. The fact that this is 6 months later, this is Paul, I don't know. It just seems a little...
well, I mean, you buy it by the end of the movie. His skill set, I think, reflects that short progression. It's not like he becomes a super warrior by the end of the movie, or if anything, he becomes the leader he thinks he needs to be.
Right.
That's probably the best way I can explain that.
Yeah. He learns the ways of the Fremen and is respected, and he becomes Muad'Dib. The other thing I didn't like, and I talked about it with my buddy Jeff, is that I really feel like Dune Part 1 should have ended with the naming ceremony. It should have been maybe 10 minutes longer, Dune Part 1, so that Dune Part 2 picks up after that. That's sort of a good chapter stop, right, for a 2-part story. When he earns his name among the Fremen people, he has, Usul, the base of the pillar, or Muad'Dib, that little mouse that is able to survive in the desert on its own. So those kinds of things, whatever, they bug me because the book. The other thing is that also not only in David Lynch's Dune, but this Dune, Paul and Chani actually have a child. They actually have a child that gets killed. So they actually are not only together romantically, they have a kid, and then the kid gets killed. The baby gets killed in one of the battles, which like adds fuel to Paul's anger towards the Harkonnens. And that is not in this at all, obviously, because that couldn't have happened in the timeline. And it's also not in David Lynch's, so they get rid of that. The other thing is Thufir Hawat actually ends up being a mentat. In the books, Thufir Hawat is a mentat for the Harkonnens. That doesn't happen in this. It's in the David Lynch Dune. Thufir Hawat, he is the mentat, which is the human computer. He's milking the little cat to stay alive from this poison. It's creepy, it's weird, but Thufir Hawat, you just assume that he's gone. He also has kind of this scene at the very end of the movie with the Emperor where he has a reunion with Paul. None of it is in it. I'll say this: Josh Brolin is fantastic as Gurney Halleck. He's so good. And the thing that bugged me most, the big changes, a lot of stuff happens at the end of the book, and there's just what Denis Villeneuve did is like, I'm just going to change a lot of this and get rid of it, because it's just like a scene where it's like, well, this has to happen with this person, then this has to happen with whatever, and then Paul has to like, take Urlin's hand in marriage to merge the houses, right? It's like, it's so much happening in the book that it's like, I understand why he condensed it. It just was missing for me. Those are the big changes. And the fact that, and this is, I don't know that this is a big spoiler. It bothered me and I don't know why. And I'll just say this, my mind might change. The very end of the movie is, as all of this, the great houses have now come to Arrakis because Paul Atreides is threatening to cut spice production forever, and the holy war begins. Billions of people across the galaxy will, in the name of Muad'Dib, be killed. The holy war begins, and Fremen are loaded into ships to go off into the galaxy to battle the great houses. As this is happening, after Chani has seen that, in a way, she kind of feels like, at least the way I saw it, she feels she may have been used and played by Paul. She goes off into the desert to call a worm. And the end of the movie is Chani and not Paul. I thought it really does feel dark. Like in the middle of the film, Paul gives this speech to the Fremen as he's trying to rally them, as he's trying to prove, like, basically he's appealing to their religious convictions, the Fremen that are in the South. He has to go to the South and convince those Fremen to join, so they have this huge army to then battle the Harkonnens and the Emperor and the Sardaukar, right? And that speech, you can see he's like, oh, he's gone not just full native. This guy is Darth Vader. It's his voice changes. He's angry. I really like that, because that's a little bit, it's more accurate to the book, but I wonder how audiences are going to take that, because you're literally seeing someone go from Anakin Skywalker to Darth Vader, but without changing their costume, right? He's the same person. He's Timothy Chalamet with the curls and the hair, right?
Yeah.
So,
I don't
know how you saw that.
No, I mean, I kind of saw Chinese reaction as, in a way, a lover scorned, especially by the fact that I'm
saying that. I agree with you.
Right. And that I think she, as the lover scorned, she realizes that he's not the guy that she made him out to be. I don't know that he's gone full Vader yet. I think, I think there's still good in him, and that's the impression I got at the end of that, is that he's not necessarily evil.
What I feel this movie,
knowing the following book, I do know he kind of takes the whole Messiah thing a little too seriously.
Yes, that's what happens in Dune Messiah, is he's just fully bought into the fact that he is nearly a god, right?
Yeah.
With godlike powers.
Yeah. I mean, I will say the TV series I liked, I liked the further ones, the McAvoy version, the
James
series.
McAvoy.
Yeah, James McAvoy, the Children of Dune or something like that. I really like that one. That was probably my favorite of the series, because it kind of, you do get to see what happens to Paul here and how crazy he gets, and then to kind of see the effect that has on his children and what they have to do.
Right. Well, I mean, what's interesting about the sci-fi series, they kind of just skip Messiah and just go to children. It's weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. But Messiah is almost like a novella. When you look at the events that happen in Dune Messiah, it's kind of a novella. It's very, compared to the first Dune, is very short. But effectively, what the ending of this movie did, it set up a third film very, very directly, where there's conflict with Chani. There's Aliyah is, I assume it's going to be maybe 16 years later. Paul is supposed to be, he's 15 at the beginning of the book. By the end of the first Dune book, he's 18. And then Dune Messiah, it's years later and he's in his 30s. So, and Aliyah is grown up. She's grown up into a young woman. So, I just don't know how they're gonna handle that. It felt like there was so much story. It happens a bit too quickly for me. So those changes, you love the book or not, it may or may not bother you. I'm saying I'm not sure. I'm saying I've seen it one time and I'm still processing it. I'm still processing it.
Well, the thing about the book,
go ahead.
The thing about the book is that in terms of an adaptation, this is par for the course. Rarely is there a book of the scope and size of Dune that has ever had a word by word faithful adaptation. Because quite frankly, everything you talk about that was missing, to me, I dread, because if they had put it in, it would just made that movie longer.
Well, I mean, the thing is
it's essentially what we got with the Snyder cut of the Justice League. It's like, oh, more backstory. Oh God. And
no. Okay. So, okay, hang on.
I'm just saying that the Snyder cut was all, it's just more backstory, and I'm like, I get it.
All I'm saying is you don't miss it because you never knew it was there.
It's not there, yeah. Of course.
Hey, I'll just say this. I need to see this movie a couple more times. I changed my opinion about, say, for example, Oppenheimer. I really didn't like it upon first viewing, and then the movie got so much better upon repeated viewings. Same thing with Dune Part 1. I liked it, and then I liked it a lot upon repeated viewings. This, I'm not there yet. It's I almost feel like I don't have a final opinion on it yet. But the Aliyah change, Thufir Hawat, the condensed timeline, taking it from 3 years to about 6 months. I don't know that was the best choice, but it is what it is. And there's more. I'll say this. There is more to love than there is to dislike. And the things I dislike are nitpicks. And the nitpicks are because I love the book.
Yeah.
And we'll leave it
there. And the nitpicks there, you don't even see it in the movie. So it's not there. There's nothing there to get mad about if you don't know anything about it.
When we have our discussion on Monday, we will get into it. And we're going to have people who love the Dune books and people who do not. So get ready for Monday. Alan, Asian representation, and don't say Batista.
I mean, Batista is Asian. So there you go. The other thing is on the Harkonnen planet, whatever that's called, D25.
Prime.
Okay. Okay. So D13, D Prime. Yeah, the sun is so hot that everyone has squinty eyes. So there's your Asian representation.
Well, it's interesting because they did a really interesting thing with. Can I just gush about this for a second?
Yeah.
I'm going to gush. So the movie, we're getting to like the middle of the movie, and you're like, where's Fade Rautha? And then the movie just goes to Gidi Prime and is there for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It's so good. So you're at Gidi Prime. And what's interesting is, so when you're indoors on Gidi Prime, things are in color. When you go outside, because of this weird black sun, They kind of explain there's this bizarre black sun. The light makes everything black and white. It's just this stark black and white, and it's glorious. So there you go.
Yeah, if they put a yellow tinge to it, yes, it would have been more Asian.
I'm going to leave that joke where it is and go from there.